Okay, here we go. Hi, I was just the other day. I don't know. Did I pronounce your name right? It's Alexandre
Yeah,
Contreras?
Alessandro, yes, or Alex is fine.
Alex. Okay, yeah, I can imagine because I speak some Spanish, but it's not
Yeah.
easy for everybody. Right, let me introduce you. So you are a Spanish male technician from Miami, and you have been in this profession for 20 years now. Since you were 18, you
Man.
just worked your way up as a kennel assistant, and now you also turned entrepreneur while you're still working as a vet tech, and you're also teaching, aren't you?
Yep. So basically, I always like to coin it as a veterinarian technician turned entrepreneur and philanthropist. And again, even just saying that little part right there just enables other technicians out there, or my goal is to make other technicians feel that we're just not technicians. We could be these entrepreneurs, we could be these innovators, and obviously these philanthropists. So we're not just tied down to just being technicians anymore.
I think that's so important because I do feel that both vets and vet techs and anybody in vet med, it's like we are branded with this. Like once you become this, this is your identity. And then when things go wrong and you feel like you're wrong, then your whole identity is wrong. So I think it's really important that we can be several things within this profession for sure. Do you want to tell me a bit about your story? You told us so beautiful when we met, just like maybe a brief version of like where how you came to and the product that you're launching now, which is really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, my inspiration, my motivation to get into veterinary medicine started at an early age. I attribute that again to my late grandpa, like I mentioned. He literally set me in front of a TV at a young age. I would watch the Animal Planet, the Discovery Channel, Net Geo Wild. Obviously, Steve Irwin, the Crocodile Hunter, being my biggest idol. Even to this day, like I mentioned, I'm 38 now, but there'll be days when I'll be outside and I'll see a lizard or snake or something, and instinctively I get this Australian accent.
Same.
Again, that ducktails back to the what I was seeing on TV, and of course, was watching this show called Emergency Vets on Animal Planet. And it was literally just a camera crew following the day-to-day activities of a technician in an animal hospital setting, and from that moment on, I was hooked. I was seeing what they were doing on TV. I was amazed by not only the type of animals that they were seeing, but the fact that they will get cases where animals will be in in very bad, poor conditions. And then, a couple of days later, a couple of weeks later, it's like a brand new pet. So when I was able to see that on TV, I was already fixated in knowing that as soon as I graduated from high school, I needed to get a crack into this profession. I needed to find a way to be in here. And I've never, ever strived to become that veterinarian. It was always to be that technician because that's what I was seeing on TV. And everybody in this profession knows the doctors are the brains of the organizations. We know that. But at the end of the day, it's that internal staff, it's the receptionists, it's the technicians that make that hospital move forward. And we are the moving mechanisms in that profession. Like I mentioned, I'm not taking anything away from doctors, but at the end of the day, we really make things move there. And I think it's really because of that passion and that dedication we have for animals. And for sure, from everybody that I've always spoken to over the years, I always see the same patterns, that love for animals at a young age, the watching it on TV at some capacity, whether it's Animal Planet or the Discovery Channel. But it was always that intriguing factor of that curiosity of watching this on TV and then just staying with that same passion as you get older.
I love that because I was the same since I was 4. I've always been wanting to become a vet, and it was like I think it was horses for me because it was the Black Stallion books, and then
Mhm.
exotics as well because watching Steer and all the others, and then I ended up just doing small animals. But yeah, it's definitely what drove me. And I do want to challenge you said so the doctors are the brains of organization, but I definitely use the brains of and so in the UK it's vet nurses, and I will be like stuck on something, and then the vet nurses come from behind and go like, have you tried or what about, and it's like, oh, and
Yeah.
then
And
so
and and,
definitely
and
that brains as well.
that's what I loved about having the right team or being in the right hospitals to where that veterinarian can feel comfortable and confident that you have team members behind you that you trust and you value. And when we give you input, it's not to overstep you or supersede you. It's just to let you know, hey, maybe, just a little like, and then let the doctor take it
Exactly.
from there. But I've always learned never to overstep those boundaries. I had a crazy story once, and I'll never forget this. I was already maybe like 6 years into my 20-year career, and I've already learned that golden rule of don't overstep the doctor. But this case in point, I had an up and coming technician. I think it was like her first year in, and she was very opinionated, giving too many opinions. And I was like, man, I told you last week, be careful. Sure enough, she gave an opinion one time in front of a client, in front of the doctor, and it just turned into a whole fiasco behind there. And then I had to pull her to the side and tell her, like, hey, look, no matter what you do, if you see something different, keep it to yourself unless it's a dire emergency or you're seeing that the doctor is making a mistake that maybe they don't see at the moment. But never, never, never overstep the doctor. And she had to learn that the hard way. But it kind of teaches you later on how to navigate different doctors, different attitudes, different characters in this space, and just understand that we're all coming from a great place, but just know your limits and know when and when not to talk.
I think there's only one way to learning, and that's the hard way. I don't think we don't have like an instruction book. Okay, I want you to tell me. So I know that since you were 18, you were always like just wanting to improve, right? I know you stayed in the same place for was it 18 years? Like in
For
the
10
same place?
years.
10 years it was like a long time. And I want to talk about that. But I know that in 2016 you watched Shark Tank and then you have this urge. Do you want to tell me about that?
Yeah, so obviously, I've always been an entrepreneur person at heart. I attribute that a lot to my upbringing. Coming from a single family household, the one mom trying to raise two kids. I learned early on that if I ever wanted anything extra, I would have to try to find it some way for my brother and I to figure it out without having to overbear my mom. If we wanted the latest shoes or a game console, we had to go out there and mow lawns, wash cars, whatever it took to generate that income for us to provide those things for ourselves. So I've always been entrepreneurial at heart, right? And of course, that led me even still being the technician there over at Town and Country Animal Hospital, where I spent 10 years of my 20-year career in. I became a certified canine massage therapist. And this is where that business influence kind of reignited itself in me. I started to learn some of these techniques and I started to apply it to animals that were either recovering from anesthesia, recovering from FHOs, ACL repairs, or even just for general arthritis. And I started to see that these animals were recovering a bit better. And that spawned on me to be like, man, maybe I could develop some type of a little side hustle, because we all know that a veterinarian technician salary, it's not the best. We have to find ways to offset those that income stream. And so I decided to start Dogapy, where I would perform these massage therapy sessions on patients. It literally started out as a joke, massaging my friends, my neighbors, dogs, and then eventually I was able to get some cases at my job. And I started to realize, like, man, I really can make a little sock money from this. So I did that for about 2 or 3 years. But it was a service-based business, meaning it needed my time. I was already stretching myself as a technician. We know we work long hours, sometimes even weekends and holiday shifts. So in 2016, I'm sitting there, I'm scratching my head. I'm getting ready to turn 30 years old. I see the writing on the wall. I see younger, fresher, hungrier technicians coming into the profession. And self-consciously, as dumb as it may sound, I always struggled with the fact that I never wanted to be viewed as the old guy in the clinic that couldn't be a doctor, because I never wanted to be a doctor. I was always aspiring to be that technician, right? So sure enough, I'm sitting there, I'm binge watching multiple episodes of a hit show called Shark Tank here in the US. I think in the UK it's called Dragon's Den.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing people coming on there creating products, services, and business, and something they have firsthand knowledge in, right? Like something they can improve and make better. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, damn, Alex, what in the veterinary profession can be improved and made better and definitely safer, not only for us technicians performing the task, but for the everyday pet owner and obviously for the patients that we're treating, right? And I happened to stumble across what I coined one of the most overlooked aspects in the animal care profession, and it's the dreadful nail trimming process in animals. We hate trimming animals' nails. I don't care what nobody says. I don't care how much of a skilled trained technician you are. I don't care if you're a gold star groomer. You're gonna nip the quick. And of course, when we nip that quick, we have to grab the old jar of styptic powder that everybody knows. First, you have to yell for your coworkers to find it. Then you got to get it out of the drawer. You got to pour that powder on the table, create this huge mess. Now we got blood underneath our fingernails. So in 2016, I said, you know what? This has to change. There has to be a safer, faster, and definitely a hygienic way of applying styptic powder to an animal's injured nail. Little did I know that that idea in 2016 was going to take me in a 4.5 years journey through the patenting process. I secured 2 utility patents on the first ever disposable styptic powdered cartridge and the first ever 3-in-1 pet nail trimmer with an integrated stainless steel nail file right on the axle handle, virtually making it a 3-in-1 tool. No more having to yell for separate tools. No more blood underneath our fingernails. And just a hygienic way of applying styptic powder when we make that mistake. Put the cartridge in, stick the animal's injured nail through here. It penetrates the soft silicone rubber, getting you past this very thin aluminum heat seal, essentially giving you 360-degree coverage of styptic powder in the most hygienic fashion possible. Had to keep my mouth shut of going through that journey. I even tattooed the name of the brand Clip Tree on my forearm because that's how all in I was.
So just
2022.
for the people that are listening that are not seeing it, just so you have an idea. So it's a nail cutter, and then in the handle there's kind of a ring, and that's where you put the cartridge of the powder. So it's like all in one, and then you kind of perforate that. That it's like a membrane, isn't it? You put the nail
Like a
through.
membrane, yep.
Yeah, and I just
And
want to point out, if anybody is sitting now thinking, yeah, that's like stupid because like what is a bit of blood? I actually, so since we last talked in the shift I had, we had a Jack Russell that had, I need to tell you the story because I think just so we can see like how dramatic blood is for the owner. So I had a Jack Russell come in that had torn the dew claw, as they do, and there was just a little bit of blood dripping, and I was really busy with 2 other emergencies that were slightly more urgent than this one, and my nurse was sitting in reception, and the owner's like, he started bleeding again, and my nurse said, no, don't worry, it's not like he's gonna bleed to death. And the owner was like, really? And my nurse was like, really? Are you joking now? Or what? And she's like, do you mean like that's a thing? They can bleed to death from the dew claws. And my nurse said, like, no, that's not a thing. Like, why would you think that's not an artery? And this owner literally stopped and called all her friends and let them know he's not going to bleed to death. He's going to be okay. So this was just for people who might be dismissing your idea, just to point out how important, blood can be to owners and how using the powder can actually could be for them.
Yeah, and of
that was it.
course,
Sorry, I interrupted your flow.
no. All my fellow technicians know that this is a major, major pain point for all of us. And of course, the pet owners sometimes don't see that interaction because sometimes here, especially at the different clinics, we like to do the nail trims away from the clients. That way the animal's not as too aggravated. So we move them to the treatment area. So the owners don't see that behind the scenes of what we go through. At the end of the day, they just see the animal's nails are trimmed. Sometimes they'll see the powder there. But unfortunately, when we do it in front of them and we do make that mistake, we have to go through these steps of pouring the powder and doing all that. So even when we show it in the faces of the owner, it doesn't look hygienic. And with the Clip Trio, my goal is to make this or set this as the standard to where even if we do it in front of the owners, at least they see the hygienic approach to it. We're not seeing the technicians dabbing their finger on the blood to then get the powder on there and then put. So my goal eventually is to make Clip Trio the standard when it comes to that nail trimming process. And the fact that it came from a technician in the trenches, myself, that saw a need to improve this, I think it just further propels the profession and knowing that, hey, there's some technicians out there with wonderful ideas and capabilities. Give them the opportunity, see what they're trying to do, and just give them a nudge. And I was just fortunate enough that I got a little push from one of my doctors that said, that's a great idea. And I just ran with the idea and I saw it all the way through, and again, it's just great to be in a position to where I can say honestly that I came into this profession, I saw a need to improve something. So in actuality, I came and I plan on leaving it better than what I got when I first got into it, if that kind of makes sense, at least I could be able to say later on in the future that, hey, I was instrumental in making a change or bringing a conscious voice or more eyeballs on how to utilize technicians, or that technicians are more than just that. And of course, that ducktails into Pet Trio Charity, which I've created, and we can speak about that as well, because that's really where my passion is really lying, on that charity aspect of things.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, so Pet Trio Charity, like I mentioned, if you notice my threes are synonymous. Clip Trio, Pet Trio, because obviously Clip Trio stands for three things: the nail trimming, the nail filing, and that styptic powder capabilities. Pet Trio Charity, again with the trio, stands for the three main things that I think that hold dear to me in the veterinary profession, and that's the care aspect, or having families that unfortunately cannot afford access to care for their patients. That's where the care aspect comes into, where I want to be able to match donations. If a client comes into an office and the treatment is $200 and they only have 100, I want to be able to spot that additional 100 that they would need. That's where the care aspect for is it. The advocacy part, this is the second tier. I'm literally fighting for more vet tech or more vet assisting programs in our public schooling here in Miami-Dade County. I've been fortunate I speak at 5 vet tech programs here in the public schooling. Every time I speak to the student body, they hear my story. They see that, oh man, you don't have to be a veterinarian to get into this profession. You can start off as a technician, grow up that way, and eventually, if you want to be a veterinarian, you have that route. If you want to be a technician, you also have that route. Or if you just want to be an innovator, you also have that ability. So that's where the advocacy part comes in, to where I'm striving for more of those tech programs in the public schooling system here in the US. And the supporting aspect, that's the third tier. I want to be able to sponsor low-cost spay and neuter vaccine rounds here in the US, or mission trips abroad for groups going into underserved communities and doing spay and neuters and things of that sort. So I kind of see this as being my legacy of being able to leave something behind for future generations of technicians, or even for my two sons to be able to be like, hey, look, man, dad had a passion for something at a young age. I started this company with Clip Trio. Hopefully that blows up and I do get that opportunity to go on Shark Tank. But the Pet Trio aspect, that's where the legacy is being able to leave behind, because even when I speak at these schools, I'm doing 2 programs now where I helped them renovate their tech program. I installed like a new chicken coop for one of the schools that I spoke at. They had like a really beat up chicken hen den. We made that brand new. I was able to get some donations in from a local hatchery here in Homestead to revamp that whole spot. We put down new epoxy flooring in their animal holding area. We're going to be installing 2 bath stations. So now the students can have doggy wash days for the faculty or for the surrounding community. And whatever monies they generate from that program, they can put it back into the program, whether it's purchasing new animals, purchasing new equipment, supplies. But at least we gave those students that entrepreneur aspect of telling them like, hey, look, you guys got this here. How are you going to figure out how you're going to make some type of income to keep the program sustainable? Because I run on limited funds and limited donations. If it was up to me, I'll drop everything brand new in there for them. But unfortunately, I'm not as successful yet. But this is my way of telling the students, like, hey, look, I gave you guys the tools. You guys figure it out how to 10x that or even 3x that. And I think that my story, again, ducktails to a technician turned entrepreneur and philanthropist. I think it's just going to further resonate with my fellow team members out there that, hey, man, if you got something that you're envisioning or something that you think sounds dumb as hell, shoot for it. There were plenty of people that told me, Alex, a nail clipper with a file and a what? You're not even going to get past the patenting process. And the fact that I got 2 utility patents, that was instrumental in my mindset that if I fought 4.5 years to get to that point, but I knew and I was confident what I created and what I envisioned, that I knew that nothing was going to stop me from achieving those things, which is why I even tattooed the brand on me, because I already saw this ahead of time, meaning that I believe a lot in the law of attraction, you know, and spiritual alignment and affirmations. And when I put this out to the universe, I kind of knew it was going to come back tenfold. And that's why, furthermore, I was like, you know what? I'm going to set up my own charity organization. I plan on donating a clip trio for every animal that gets adopted from a rescue organization I plan on partnering up with, because my ultimate goal is to make sure that even the everyday pet owner can safely learn how to not only bond with the pet during the nail trimming process, but at least have that knowledge of knowing that, hey, look, I can't get into my vet's office because they're booked. Damn. Let me learn how to do this myself. At least I'm not letting that nail grow and eventually embed into my animal's paw. let me figure this out on my own, and then eventually I'll go to the vet's office at a later date. But at least I'm giving them that ability to be like, learn something new, learn a new craft, but also bond with your pet in the process of doing that.
There's so much passion coming from you. I like the people that are not seeing you, that you're like, your whole body is just explaining it and you're in it. And I remember I asked you when we just met, why didn't you burn out? And I know you told me one is like, have your why, which is you still remember your granddad sitting you in front of the screen, watching Steve Irwin. That was that passion that drove you. And I remember you also said that you keep like challenging yourself. You keep like not just going in, brushing some dogs and then go out again. You innovate. And I'm wondering as well, because yeah, vet med can sometimes get a bit tedious. No, it can be like you're doing your anal glands, the boosters, and I have some vets on call that I coach, and they're like, I've just done like have the same conversation 50 times today. And I think that alone is burnout. Even if you still have time, in your day, you can still burn out just because it's like Groundhog Day, isn't it? Every day is the same day. And I think it sounds for you, one of the key aspects has been, how can I make this better? How can I improve this? How can I do something and change just a little bit your corner of that? What do you think?
So what I think assisted me in the longevity of things, the fact that I stayed at one clinic for those 10 years, that's pretty unheard of. But again, it ducktails back to, I was fortunate that I landed in the right animal hospital, Town and Country Animal Hospital, NAHA accredited animal hospital. I was fortunate that the doctors there truly utilized us and empowered us and kind of gave us that confidence and that developed that family bondship, meaning that they would allow us to do, for instance, let's say I came into the clinic that day and I know that the day before, like I tried a venipuncture and I didn't get it. We get 2 tries and I'm like, damn, I messed up. But now there's 2 technicians ahead of me. There's 3 of us. I know I might not get that same ability now. Put one. The doctor be like, hey, Alex, I noticed yesterday you didn't get your catheter in. You were upset. You were down. Let's take on this case right here. Hey guys, I'm gonna let Alex put this catheter in. That's
Wow.
as dumb as it may sound. That veterinarian taking, let's say that exchange was like 45 seconds. That veterinarian taking a 45-second exchange with me in that moment of him noticing something and me noticing like, whoa, he was tentative. They did see what I'm doing. Yes, Dr. Mordaunt, they gave me their chance. And then that right there built a small seed of loyalty that I already attached to that gentleman just for that 45-second that he took. And then I just compounded that over the years. And I saw that they were giving me opportunities. They were helping me try new skill sets. I remember at first being in the back in the kennels. Then I gotta walk these dogs, boarders check in, blah, 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 blah. Hey, Alex, we need you in the front. Because again, I happen to be the only male there. We got a big dog in the front. And I'm like, okay, I'll go right over there, pick the dog up. That gave me the ability now to be in the treatment area. The doctors saw my kind of initiatives that I took. They see, my ability to work with the teams closely and not overstep anybody, not cross any boundaries. That allowed them to be like, hey, damn, we need to give that guy an opportunity. And when those opportunities were given, I jumped all over them. And that's what started to build my loyalty to them over the years to the point where I didn't see them as my boss. I saw them like, damn, I can't leave these people. They got me at 18. They educated me. They were paying me. I can't turn my back on these guys. Even if I have a little disagreement, like I told you, it's important to have a very strong office manager or practice manager, because whenever I run into an issue with a doctor or something, or I felt bad about something, I'll go to my office manager, I'll vet myself. The office manager be like, you know what? I'll talk to Dr. Mordaunt, or I'll let him know what was the miscommunication and we'll hash it out. 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, issues hashed out, misunderstandings were communicated. Everybody back on the same page, back to day one, like if nothing ever happened. And I think that building that over the years is what kept me dedicated to them. When it comes to the aspect of the burnout, I think I just challenge myself every day, because I know it gets boring sometimes doing the same thing repetitively, to the point where one of the most repetitive things we could do is like, oh, where are you here for? What happened to the pet? When did you notice it? In those exchanges, gathering that intel from the customer, I always just try to sprinkle something different that I did the day before in my questioning. I don't know. Let's say if I tell them, okay, well, when did you notice that the dog had the diarrhea? I don't know. Maybe this time around, throw a little joke in there. When did this dog had the bubble guts? Or when did this dog, pooped in your couch? Like I'll try to change or formulate the way I say things. And when it comes to the technical aspect of things, I always challenge myself. Like, let's say that the case before, I was doing a venipuncture and I used 4 tapes. Let's say 4 tapes to secure the catheter. I say, you know what, Alex? I really think I could get this done with 3 tapes. Let me try the 3 tape method. And when I was able to change that strategic input there from going from 4 tapes to 3 tapes, I already gave myself a motivation right then and there. Like, how can I outprove myself that last time I used 4, let me use 3 to see if I get those same results. And I will have these little internal battles, competitions with myself. And that's what kind of kept me wanting to continue to learn and kind of really dial down my technical skills. And to end with that, I remember that I've gotten so proficient at catheter placements because, again, we will have this doctor hounding us to make sure that I don't want to see no blood. I don't want to see the alcohol mixed with the hair. I want to see this table clean when you're placing your catheters, to the point where I'll challenge myself, like I'll shave the leg, hair away, alcohol scrub, it away, my tapes are there. And I would tell myself, along with the other technician that was on the opposite table, I'd be like, hey, look, we both started at the same time. Let's see who can place this catheter in under a minute. I swear to you not. We had a similar pet, so you can't tell me that you have a pet with the Vargas or one with the Dachshund legs. No. Let's get a nice vein here. We both can see it, both gauged. Go. And we will just, and we will get it, and we will challenge ourselves like that. And again, these are the same co-workers that lasted the same amount of years that I had. Maybe one was like 2 years ahead of me. But the fact that we were able to challenge ourselves and remember why we got into this profession, I think that's what assisted in me not burning out as fast as others, because I will always find ways to challenge myself or my fellow team members.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting because that's what I find again and again, listening to people and coaching people is that you can literally be 2 people in exactly the same situation, but it's what you make of it. No, it's what you make of it. So I think stagnation, and people don't think this, they think burnout is because you have to run around, do a lot of things, but feeling you're stuck and you can't get out. And I even had someone said to me, this profession is like a prison because they just felt so trapped, right? But that's because it's Groundhog Day, I think a key thing you said as well, though, was that your managers were so good, like the management of your hospital, and it was a private practice, wasn't it? It was a private practice, yeah.
Yeah, it was a private practice, and I think that's what, because now looking back on my career, I can see the differences. And this is not a shot at corporate hospitals versus private owned practices, but yeah, it really is. I see the difference of a private practice and that corporate hospital. Case in point, when I was in the private practice, if I had an issue with the doctor, that issue is getting squared away right there, because at the end of the day, they're the owners of the practice. They understand that to keep my team members happy, to keep my customers happy, I better attend to what's going on with my technician, because they're the ones who are moving this hospital, right? So if I would have the issue with the doctor, if the doctor doesn't pull me to the side and we hash it out right there, I'll go to the office manager, because I know the moment I go to the office manager, that office manager is going to maybe take 3 steps and be right there in front of the doctor to figure it out. On the corporate side of things, I've seen my experience. If I had an issue with a doctor or a doctor with a client, if I was to tell my office manager, I won't get a response maybe to the next day. Or maybe even if I address it with my office manager, they're like, well, I got to look at the guidelines on this. Or, I got to speak to Sherry, who's overseeing. There's too many chefs in the kitchen, away from the kitchen, to when the solution, by the time the solution comes down after it reaches the higher ups, either A, I'm already fed up with the situation because it's not being addressed, Or B, I'm just like, you know what? It ain't even worth coming to this manager because it's gonna take too long to get a response. You know, I can either go to the doctor, but now even this doctor's gonna be like, well, you should have went to your office manager. And it's like, well, I can't go to her. I can't go to you. What we're gonna do here, you know? And then of course, believe it or not, that affects the performance of the technician because now I feel undervalued. I'm not feeling appreciative. Like, damn, I had a pretty big concern here. Now I gotta tell this person, didn't tell that person to finally get to you. Nah, there's too many things in order here. There's too many things, too many variables. Too many variables that sometimes solutions need immediate action. And unfortunately, sometimes in these corporate hospitals, the immediate action takes too long.
Yeah, I agree. I think for any leader who is listening and watching this, at least try and, I guess the advice is, well, try and take responsibility there and then. Don't try and brush the responsibility or like, oh, the HR will have to do that, be a bit courageous in that sense. And I think it's like we come away from humanity as well. Everything is just like so regulated. Like I find myself sitting there watching videos on burnout and I'm like, okay, so now that are just like it's not
Yeah.
helpful,
And,
and
and and another thing that I learned too that is I think is very, very important. I think this is one thing that I'm really going to be campaigning for, especially with now me being able to speak at these tech programs or these veterinarian assistant programs, is that I understand that especially now in the industry, there's a lot of fighting going on, or not fighting, but there's just a lot of disagreements between title protection. Listen, I understand if you're licensed, certified, registered, and you paid for your education, you put your time in, you get your certifications, that's fine. Don't dumb down the veterinarian assistants who are striving to become either licensed, certified, or registered. They took a different path. They started the veterinarian assistant route because either A, they were exposed to it at the school level, or maybe they took a program to where they thought that an assistant and a technician are the same things. I know at the end of the day, my experience, guys, I never had a doctor tell me, hey, Alex, you you can't do that. Don't do that, because they know if they're to do that, we'll be like, well, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing that's so different from this person? Okay, you're certified, you're licensed. Okay, you just put in that catheter. Okay, you put a tape. Why can't I do that? I educated myself on it. I've seen this so many times. I'm already a veterinarian assistant. Why can't you teach me that, or why can't I do that, even if I just try it one time? And that's where I saw that I was fortunate that the technicians that I worked with, they were, hey, Alex, we need you. We need to get this done. And I'm like, I'm right here, guys. What I need to do. And I went for it. So at the end of the day, guys, I understand that titles are important, but let's not forget why we got into this profession. At the end of the days, and I coined this and I'll take full responsibilities for this. At the end of the day, the animals that we treat, they don't see these titles. They see the passion and the dedication we have for the pets, for our passion, and that we're doing things correctly. I understand that there's laws in place. Different states are different. Some states you have to be licensed or certified or registered. Here in Florida, we had a free for all. You're a veterinarian technician, you're an assistant, you're an on the job trained technician. Go. You're attending conferences and getting your CE credits. Oh, you're just not applying those CE credits to the licensing or to the test. But I still have that knowledge. I still have that know-how. So don't come to the technician or a veterinarian assistant and tell them that they can't do something, because right then and there, it's like dumping cold water on their fire. You're letting them know, like, hey, look, stay where you're at. Don't try to level up. Just stay right then and there. And that's why when I speak to these veterinarian assistants now, I tell them honestly, hey, look, you can stay an assistant or you can become a registered or certified technician. It's really up to you. Do you plan on moving to a different state? Do you plan on being in this long term? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, go ahead and get certified or get registered, get licensed. Oh, you just want to be a veterinarian assistant entry level? Stay a veterinarian assistant entry level. And you giving them those different abilities, but never try to crap on somebody who's just trying to take a different route in life, because at the end of the day, you're just going to mess up the workforce development that's much needed in this profession. Because if we keep throwing water on people's fire, they're not going to stay in this profession too long.
I agree. You definitely have to make it fun for people coming in and give them challenges. So in the UK, the law is as well. Like I get because I just don't follow it. Like I don't know when the law changes because I'm also Danish. So I'm a bit like I have to ask my nurses, can this person do this? Or they're not allowed to do that because I don't want anybody to like get kicked out or something. But within
Yeah.
any opportunity, what they can do, I always ask. You know, I love having someone who's not just an assistant, like you say, not a veterinary nurse. And then, for example, we have C-section. I can throw a puppy at them, and we can teach them how to like have them do something interesting, right? That's
Yeah,
definitely
and
important.
that's exactly what used to happen in the private practice for me. Let's say that I was just so happen to be walking by with a boarder and there's an emergency going on. That doctor isn't gonna say, "Hey, Alex, you keep doing that." No, no, like, "Hey, can you put that dog away? Come." And I'm like, "Yeah." You know, what do I need to
Yeah.
do? What do I need to do? And getting the backing from that veterinarian taking full responsibilities for whatever happened. But at the end of the day, it's their clinic, it's their license. If anything goes kapoots, it's on that veterinarian. But when you're the owner of that practice, you're like, "Hey, this is my practice, my house. Hey, listen, I'm paying you, Alex. Get over here and help me. This is how you're gonna do it." And then that's why I saw the difference between private practice and that corporate part. The corporate part, in my experience, the hospital that I worked at, I won't mention the name, but there was too many, like, there was just I just saw the difference. I saw the difference to the point to where it wasn't even about the animals. It was more how many animals we can see. You
Mm.
know, how many animals we can get in, how many animals or cases are we seeing versus before in the private practice, like, "Hey, did you help out Ms. Rodriguez? Did you help out Ms. Anderson? You know, we got this coming in." It wasn't ever really about how many we've seen. And this was a very successful animal hospital. But again, they had that more kind of one-on-one family interaction because that's the best business to be in, that family approach things, not just, another number.
So I guess I mean we can't sit here and vilify opposite corporate practice because I'm sure like some independent practices I am sure are horrible as well. But
Yeah.
what would be your advice to someone who is like stuck in a toxic environment where they're not getting either as a vet tech or as a vet because I have actually so in Spain I have worked in Spain as well and I met vets that are not since they graduated that had been working for 3 years and they'd never operated because the senior vets could just not be asked to take the time and have the patience to teach them because there wasn't time for it, right? And to me that was like I mean as a vet operating, you know, grabbing a scalpel and cutting something for the vet, like it's super scary. But if you don't do it, it's like I mean, maybe further in life you don't want to operate it, but at least like in the beginning, like you should do it, right? So, what would be your advice if someone has landed in a workplace and they're not happy, and it's the workplace is just grinding them down?
Yeah, it's one of those I honestly see it like a relationship, like dating somebody. If you're in a relationship and your goals are not being met or you're not being respected or valued, speak about it first because communication is always important. Maybe as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize that communication is key in every aspect of life, especially relationships, whether it's a work or a personal thing. Communicate your needs. Give them time, and if your needs aren't being met, man, you better start finding a plan B. Because I've learned that if you're not being valued somewhere and you give them the opportunity for them to value you and yet they still don't see it, remove yourself because unfortunately sometimes people don't value something until it's gone. We all go through that, past relationships. If somebody was good to you, you're no longer in it, then you're like, "Damn, that person was good to me. I messed it up," but at least have that communication. But if you see that you're not being valued or challenged or just growing and just growing, if you're not
Yeah.
growing, you need to get out of there. And you need to first lay down some negotiation tactics first. Use it like an excuse, like, "Hey, look, man, I've been doing X, X, and X. I'm not getting X, X, and X. In order for me to continue being here, I better see X." And if they're like, "Well, we can't give you X," and be like, "What the hell? I'm out of here then," because I just threw that out there to see if you would even see the value that I'm bringing and why that value adds to that X. But if you can't do that for me, then this is where I got to part ways. And I know it's a little bit harder for veterinarians to get into contracts. But us as technicians, we don't have a contract. It's like, "Hey, you work here for as long as you can, then you can leave." But with doctors, it's a bit harder. But the overall goal is that if you're not being valued and you're not growing, find somewhere that you're going to be respected and valued. And unfortunately, if you don't have your backing by your practice manager or the veterinarian there, or whoever the director happens to be that oversees that hospital, then you need to go somewhere where you're valued, man. Because it's nothing like being undervalued when you know you're going in there day in and day out, you're busting your tail, and it just goes unseen or unheard, And I know at the end of the day, we get paid. Like we get paid. Okay, you get paid for doing what you're doing, but it makes the money sound so much better, even if it's less, if you are being valued. If you're getting that, hey, good job today, or you know what, let's buy the team coffee today in the morning, or let's get a half a dozen donuts, or you know what, let's close for an hour and let's have a meeting, lunch on it. It's just the smallest things that take the least amount of money, from my personal opinion, that I see how to motivate a team and let somebody know that, hey, I see you, I hear you. Maybe we can't give you the pay increase that you want at the moment, but hey, let's sit down. Let's hash this out. Let's find a happy medium, and then we could reevaluate things later on. But just know that I value you, I see you, and I'm gonna do my best to try to get you where you need to be. And that little simple communication can stretch somebody's loyalty out to that hospital or to a person. And it's that knowing that you have that confidence in your hospital manager or your veterinarian to be able to express yourself in those matters.
I love how you compare to relationship, because I for sure have been like the time where I've been most like miserable in my relationship is when we've had some sort of misunderstanding with my husband, and then I've been like, he doesn't value me, he doesn't respect me, and it's just literally maybe he didn't hear me saying something. It's always misunderstandings, and then when you talk about it, then it's like, oh, I was completely wrong. I wasn't. But if you are genuinely in a relationship where you're not being respected, you're not being valued, and they're gaslighting you, like in a relationship, you should leave. And if it's a workplace, you should leave. And I think a lot of the burnout and people that go into depression, and I think as well, is because they may be gaslighting themselves a bit. They think that they should cope better, they should deal with it better, and they're just being ground down by people. And it doesn't even have to be bullying, right? Like you said, just not being valued, not being seen, not being appreciated. That is really hard on a human.
Yeah, and I think what kind of brought me to use that analogy between the relationship aspect is that, unfortunately, sometimes if you're like in a relationship, personally, you're hoping for that person to change. Like you're waiting for that aha moment of that change to come. The same thing with the hospital. Like, damn, maybe they're gonna change. Maybe it wasn't a good month. Maybe it's maybe next week. And then you're always giving that benefit of the doubt to when you look back, you're like, God damn, I really done burnt myself out this whole point, waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's when you have that self-respect and you value yourself, you're like, wait a minute here. If you're in a relationship, personal relationship, like, wait a minute, man, this ain't working out for me because blah, 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 blah. You speak about it. Same thing with the job. You know what, man, this ain't working out. I gave you guys numerous opportunities. I know how to value myself. I'm going to go ahead and pack my things because this ain't working. I gave you guys numerous tries, numerous attempts. You're not seeing my value. I got to get out of here. And it's that jump that most people are afraid to do because you keep giving them benefit of the doubt in the hopes they'll change. And at the same time, it's scary jumping from same thing. It's scary from going from one relationship for a job to another because nothing is secure. Nothing in this life is secure. The only thing that's secure, unfortunately, that we're all going to pass away eventually. But I've learned that you won't know until you take that leap, and that leap of faith, whether you're a strong, faith-based person, you won't know until you take that. So if you're not being valued somewhere, find other opportunities, and eventually you'll get into a comfortable spot where you'll be like, you know what, this fit just right. This is exactly what I needed, and then you'll start to be valued because you took value upon yourself to get yourself out of there.
Yeah. And as what I've learned through coaching as well now is you need to work on your self-respect, like exactly what you said. Like you need like the self-love and the self-respect. And it sounds very like, woo, but it is so true. Because I have like spoken on social media with people that have been like, oh, I've been in this profession for 14 years and all the workplaces are toxic. And I'm thinking, I'm not want to say you are the problem because that sounds bad, but you are like you need to work on your self-respect and not let people treat you like that. So you have to come to a point where you you think you're like, they are lucky to have me. I'm at a point now between all the experience I have, because I've been in this for 30 years now, and I'm, the level I have, but only also because I worked on my brain, because I have met vets that are the same age or older than me, and they still do not have that self-respect. They still don't value themselves. And I think you need to do the work on yourself and combine that with communication skills as well. I think I've taken so many communication courses now, I could not even tell you, because it is so important. And you put your point through and read through the lines, and and all that. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, the communication aspect is gold. Because listen, at the end of the day, we're not mind readers. Because if we're mind readers, who knows what the hell people will be running into with their intrusive thoughts. But I always like to say that, and I see that a lot. I've seen the toxicity before with other technicians, amongst other technicians, but I always saw how easily things get hashed out. Super easy. We're all going to be eventually in the lounge, in the lunchroom, in the lunch break, or at the Christmas party, or whatever, veterinary technician appreciation week. Yo, just take 2 minutes out the day, pull the person, be like, hey, look, Katie. And that's the name of one of the technicians I work with. I'll be like, hey, look, Katie, I didn't like the way that this went down. And she'll be like, you know what? But I didn't like the way you approached it. And then I'll be like, damn, you know what? I did approach it that way. I can see how you reacted to it. Listen, man, let's put that behind us. Let's just continue working like this. Can I have your cupcake? Yeah, sure. Boom. And then you just work off of it. And then it just becomes a story later on. You'd be like, hey, remember your first year? I really hated you that first year. And they'd be like, yeah, I really hated you too, but that's because I didn't know how to deal with you. But now I've learned how to deal with you. I know your stress points, and now I can adjust myself when I'm around you. And it was that comfortability that we had amongst us as team members to know that you can confide in that person. Because at the end of the day, guys, these people are holding animals for you. They could seriously hurt you. And if you don't have the confidence in that person holding that dog or that cat, man, it's gonna be a tough couple of days or a couple hours for you to get by placing the catheter without having to worry about that person securing or holding that pet right for you, And I think that it was in those moments that I realized, like, I backed my team so much that I've never had any of my technicians get hurt or injured when I'm restraining a pet. They never allowed me to get scratched or bitten in my 20 years because we had that confidence of knowing, like, hey, look, guys, we could get really messed up with these animals because we're like right here when we're placing catheters with these animals or intubating them. Anything can happen. I got my back, you got my back. Let's figure this out together. And I think it was that team building. So and I do see a lot of organizations now that do like, let's have like team building meetings. Let's go play golf. You don't even need any of that. You don't need any of that, because at the end of the day, we're going to be stuck in this clinic together. Let's hash out and bond in the clinic. We don't need to bond at the golf store or playing bowling. No. Let's hash it out right here, because this is where all the confrontation is going to happen. We need to figure out how to deal with each other in here. Then maybe later on we can figure out about bowling. But let's figure out how to get along with each other in the clinic,
It's so true. I think when I'm thinking about it, so I had my own clinic, which is years ago, but now I have a night team, and we're like a very limited, because I'm the only vet in charge. So each week there's a new vet, but it's the same vet nurses that rotate, and we all trust each other like 100%. But I think we've had really long, deep discussions about stuff. I think we know more about each other than probably our own families know. There's that, like you say, there's that trust that, like, I know that any of my nurses holding would rather get bitten themselves that let the animal bite me, and I'm the same with them, because I got really long arms. So if we have a big dog, sometimes it's better that I hold and they and they do whatever, because I can kind of like wrap
another
around.
thing that's important with that, where I'll have the technician tell me, hey, man, I really don't got a good grip on this dog or this cat, or my arm's messed up today, or my, like, okay, well, thank you for letting me know. Yo, I'll restrain you, put the catheter in. And we all knew how to move around with our skill set, depending on, we never took on a case to where we knew, like, oh, damn, I can't do this, but I'm going to try it anyways and mess everything up. No, it'll be like, hey, look, man, I'm not going to be able to hit that vein. I know that you were good with animals that were dehydrated, or I knew that you were good with kittens with, thin skin, or with kittens. Yo, get this one. Let me see you. And then I'll try the next one. And then that's how we were able to kind of build off each other, versus having that one technician is like, man, get out of here. I can do everything. Nah, that never worked. It was always like, where your strong skill set is at. I already know it from watching you over the years. Hey, Katie, go ahead and take care of this one. I'm not even gonna botch this, or you do the same thing. Hey, Alex, I can't do this one. You take it, and we knew how to kind of switch roles like that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That is, yeah. I was like, I feel like there's so
And
much
that's
more we
over.
could talk
That's
about
just
with ego and, but yeah.
yeah, that's just over the years of. But again, it started in a clinic where everybody in there was, 10 years, 12 years deep in from day one, starting in year one, all of us together. Because again, it dovetails back to it was such a safe environment for us. There was a growth aspect to us. And we just had the backing and the confidence of the staff and the doctors there to be like, yo, hey, you guys, boom, you guys are a good unit. Figure it out to the point where I know that if I have a shift, I'm like, damn, I work 7 to 6 today, but who is it? Me, Katie, Alizette. Oh, okay, this is perfect. And I kind of just rolled into it knowing that, oh, today's gonna be a good day. I got the A team. The B team is tomorrow, but I'm not there. You know what I'm saying? But I got my A team today, and we're able to kind of work things off that way.
Yeah. Okay. I could just keep talking for hours because it's
Yeah.
just such a good, yeah, we could like, so many things we could talk about, but I don't want to take, we've been almost an hour. I don't want to take more of your time. I know you're a busy entrepreneur. So definitely. So where can people find you, Alex? I'll put this notes in the show note and I'll get you to send an
Yeah,
email with the details,
definitely.
but tell
So,
me.
yeah, so they can find me obviously on Instagram, at Clip Trio. So that's KLIPTRIO, Petrio Charity as well, PETTRIO Charity. Obviously you can also find my personal one at Dogapy. So that's DOGAPY. That's on Instagram. You can find the TikTok for Clip Trio on there as well, and the Facebook page as well. Cliptrio.com and then petriocharity.org are the main websites. LinkedIn is just Alexandre Contreras, my name. And again, my main messaging out here with this podcast appearance, thank you so much for the opportunity, is just to further tell my story, man, and just let other individuals know that, somebody like myself exists out here. I'm pretty sure that there's other innovators in the space right now as well. And just keep trucking on with your mission, and always remember your why you got into this, why you're doing this for. And I think when you have those two pillars set, you kind of realign your North Star and know exactly, kind of where you're heading in your life and on your journey.
Beautiful words, Alex. Thank you so much. Okay, and I'll see you on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.